There is a specific, bone-chilling type of panic that begins to set in during the quiet moments of middle age. It doesn't hit you when you are 25. At 25, you feel immortal. Time is an infinite, renewable resource. You feel you can make enormous financial mistakes and bounce back. You can cash out your 401k to pay off a credit card, telling yourself you'll replace it later. You can delay starting an IRA because there's always next year, and next year feels lifetimes away. But then one day the timeline shifts. You wake up and you are 45, or 50, or 55. You look in the mirror in the harsh morning light and see the gray at your temples, the lines around your eyes. You feel the aches in your joints that weren't there a decade ago. You watch your own parents aging and realize the finiteness of life. And suddenly, the realization hits you with the devastating force of a physical blow. Later has arrived, and you are not ready, not even close. You look at your retirement savings, if you are lucky enough to have any, and you do the brutal, honest mental math for the first time. You realize that the amount of money in that account, which might have seemed like a decent chunk of change a few years ago, is not a nest egg. It is a ticking time bomb of inadequacy. You realize that if you were forced to stop working tomorrow, your lifestyle would collapse within 6 months. This is the defining, silent crisis for millions of hardworking people over 40 in America right now. It is the terrifying knowledge that you have been sleepwalking toward a financial cliff. You have worked hard your entire adult life. You have shown up, paid your taxes, raised your family, tried to be a good citizen. Yet, you are staring down the barrel of a retirement defined not by leisure, travel, and security, but by poverty, anxiety, and reliance on others for your basic needs. If you are feeling this panic right now, feeling that knot of regret and fear in your stomach, I want you to listen very, very closely. You are not alone. This is a generational crisis. But hear this. You are completely out of time for delusions. The window is closing rapidly. The runway is short. The luxury of making financial mistakes is gone forever. If you are over 40 with little to no savings, the standard strategies that work for a 20-year-old will not work for you. You cannot afford to take 20 years to find yourself financially. You cannot afford to learn from mistakes. You need a strategy that is ruthless, efficient, mathematically sound, and practically guaranteed to work if executed with military precision over the next 15 to 20 years. You need the only strategy that works when time, your most valuable asset, is working against you. You need the investment philosophy of Warren Buffett. Now, I know it seems counterintuitive at first glance. Warren Buffett started investing when he was 11 years old. He bought his first stock in 1941. He is the ultimate global example of the power of starting early. Why on earth would a late starter, someone who missed the boat for 30 years, listen to him? We listen to him because there is another fact about Warren Buffett's life that is far more relevant to you right now. While he started early, the vast majority of his immense wealth, over 99% of his current net worth, was created after his 50th birthday. Think about that. The Warren Buffett we know, the global icon of wealth, was largely built in the second half of his life. He is the master of the endgame. He understands better than anyone how to maximize the power of compounding when the stakes are highest and the numbers get big. More importantly for us, he understands the psychological traps, the emotional landmines that destroy investors who are panicked, desperate, and trying to catch up too fast. If we are going to salvage your retirement in the limited time you have left to work, we have to adopt his mindset completely. We have to tear down the faulty belief systems that got you here. We have to strip away the noise of the financial news media, the siren song of get-rich-quick schemes, and the paralyzing grip of panic. We must replace them with cold, hard, disciplined reality based on proven principles. This is not going to be an easy video to listen to. It is not going to be comfortable. I am not here to rub your back and tell you that everything will be fine if you just skip your morning latte and save an extra $50 a month. It won't be fine. That is a lie. If you want a dignified retirement, the next decade of your life is going to require a level of sacrifice, focus, and discipline you have never applied to your finances before. It will be hard, but the alternative, being poor and dependent in your old age, is infinitely harder. If you are ready for the unvarnished truth, then let's begin the protocol for the late starter. Phase 1. The psychological reset. Before we can talk about money, we have to talk about your mind. The biggest obstacle you face right now is not the stock market. It is your own brain panicking. The first step in the Buffett protocol for late starters is what I call the Great Rejection. Before we can talk about what you must do to build wealth, we have to talk about what you absolutely must not do, under any circumstances. This is where most people over 40 fail and seal their financial fate. When panic sets in, the human brain immediately looks for a shortcut. It is a survival mechanism. You realize you need hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of dollars to retire, and you only have a few thousand in the bank. The gap seems impossible to bridge through normal saving and average market returns. The math feels overwhelming. So the temptation becomes overwhelming to swing for the fences. You start looking for the home run investment that will solve all your problems in one stroke. You hear about a friend of a friend who made a killing in cryptocurrency. You read about stock options trading systems that promise to double your money in a week. You see an ad on social media for a secret private equity investment opportunity that promises 20% risk-free returns per year. You get pitched on an expensive franchise opportunity that is guaranteed to make you rich. Listen to me carefully. This impulse is the siren song of financial death. It is the path to ruin. Warren Buffett's two most famous ironclad rules of investing are: Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget. Rule number 1. Why is this so critical for you? When you are 20 years old and have $5,000 to your name, you can gamble on a risky tech stock. If you lose it all, it stings, but it's not a fatal blow. You have 40 years of earning power ahead of you to replace that money. When you are 55 years old and you have managed to scrape together $50,000 in an IRA, and you lose 50% of that nest egg gambling on a speculative investment because you were trying to catch up fast, you are finished. That $25,000 loss is devastating. You do not have the time to wait for it to recover. You do not have the human capital, the future years of work, to replace it easily. The most dangerous thing a late starter can do is try to get rich quick. Buffett built his fortune not by constantly hitting jackpots, but by consistently avoiding catastrophe. He missed many high-flying tech stocks in the 90s, but he also missed the crash that wiped everyone else out. He understands that if you avoid the big zeros, the steady, boring gains compound into massive wealth over time. If you are over 40 and behind, you must reject all speculation. It is forbidden. You must delete the Coinbase and Robinhood apps from your phone if you use them for gambling. You must stop listening to your brother-in-law's hot stock tips at Thanksgiving. You must walk away from high-pressure salespeople selling complex insurance products like indexed universal life or variable annuities that promise market upside with no downside. They are lying to you about the costs and the risks. The only way to catch up now is through a boring, relentless mathematical process. If you are looking for excitement, take $20 and go to a casino. Get it out of your system. But do not treat your retirement savings like a roulette wheel. You have to accept that you missed the easy path of starting early. The path that remains is hard, it is steep, but it is the only one that is real and still open to you. Once you have rejected the gambling mindset, we move to the second part of the psychological reset: radical acceptance and the new timeline. You have to forgive yourself for the last 20 years. Regret is a useless, corrosive emotion. It is poison. Beating yourself up at 2 a.m. for not starting an IRA in 1998 does not put a single dollar into your bank account today. It just burns mental energy you need for the fight ahead. Acknowledge the mistake. Admit that you prioritize the wrong things. Learn the lesson, and then slam the door shut on the past. It is gone. You are exactly where you are. The only relevant question is what you do between today and the day your body tells you that you can no longer work. You need to redefine your timeline. You don't have 40 years to let compounding work its slow magic. But if you are 45 today and plan to work until your full Social Security retirement age of 67, you have 22 years. 22 years is not a lifetime, but in the world of compound interest, it is an eternity if, and this is a massive if, you do not interrupt the process. Buffett calls compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. He understands that money multiplies exponentially, not linearly. The growth is slow at first, but it accelerates dramatically at the end. Even in a shorter window of 20 years, The back-end acceleration of money is stunning if you leave it alone. We need to look at the mathematics of hope. Let's look at some real numbers. Let's say you are 50 years old today. You have zero savings. You plan to work until 67. That gives you 17 years. If you can manage to save $500 a month and invest it in the total stock market, assuming an average historical return of 8% after inflation, at age 67 you would have roughly $200,000. That's better than nothing, but likely not enough to live on. Now, let's get serious. This is the Buffett approach. Let's say you undergo a radical lifestyle change and manage to save $2,000 a month. Over those same 17 years, at the same return, you would have nearly $800,000. Now we are talking about a life-changing amount of money. Combined with Social Security, $800,000 can provide a dignified, secure retirement. The math works. It is possible. But the timeline is tight, which means the margin for error is zero. You cannot miss a month of contributing. You cannot cash out your 401k when you change jobs to pay for a renovation. You cannot panic sell when the market crashes. You have to become a machine of execution. Phase 2. The strategic execution. Now that your mind is right, we need to talk about the mechanics of the catch-up. This leads us to the third and hardest pillar of the protocol, the aggressive gap. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's brilliant business partner for decades, had a simple saying about getting rich that cuts through all the noise. Spend less than you make, always be saving something. Put it into a tax-deferred account. Over time, it will begin to amount to something. This is such a simple concept that it's almost insulting. It is insulting because it's brutally hard. And if you started late, it's exponentially harder. You cannot compound what you do not have. The only variable in this entire equation that you fully control right now is how much cash you free up every single month to feed the investment machine. If you are starting at 25, saving 10 to 15% of your income might be enough for a comfortable retirement. If you are starting at 45 or 50 with nothing, 10% will not save you. It's mathematically impossible. You need to be aiming for a savings rate that feels uncomfortable, perhaps borderline impossible. You need to aim for 20, 30, maybe even 40 or 50% of your take-home pay going toward catch-up savings. This is the price of waiting. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where most people give up. It means you have to undergo a brutal forensic audit of your lifestyle. Buffett, one of the richest men on earth, still lives in the house he bought in the 50s for $31,500. He drives cars until they fall apart, often buying them used with hail damage to get a discount. He is perfectly happy with a McDonald's cheeseburger. He understands deeply that status symbols are the enemy of wealth. If you are over 40 and broke, you are likely drowning in status symbols that are dragging you down. The least luxury car you can't really afford but feels nice to drive. The house that is too big for your needs and costs a fortune to heat and cool. The expensive vacations you put on credit cards to impress people on Facebook who don't actually care about you. To catch up now, you must make a radical trade. You must sacrifice current comfort and appearance for future survival. It might mean selling your house and downsizing to a smaller condo or apartment to free up $500 or $1,000 a month in mortgage payments and maintenance. It might mean selling the new car, paying off the loan, and buying a 10-year-old reliable sedan for cash. It definitely means declaring a permanent moratorium on all new consumer debt. No more credit cards, no more financing furniture. You have to create a massive gap between your income and your expenses and shove every single available dollar into that gap. It will feel like deprivation at first. Your ego will scream, but you have to reframe it. You are not depriving yourself. You are buying your freedom. You are buying your dignity. Now let's talk about the tactical mechanics. Where does this money go for maximum efficiency? This brings us to the fourth pillar, the circle of competence and simple execution. Warren Buffett has a core mental model called the circle of competence. He says you don't need to be an expert on everything to succeed. You just need to know the exact boundaries of what you do know and stick strictly inside them. He doesn't invest in complex biotech companies or trendy tech startups he doesn't understand. He sticks to simple businesses with predictable cash flows that he can analyze with certainty, like insurance, railroads, and consumer goods. As a late-starting investor, your circle of competence does not include analyzing the balance sheets of small-cap companies. It does not include predicting the future of decentralized finance or spotting the next Amazon. If you try to play that game against professional investors who have teams of analysts and supercomputers, you will lose your shirt. Buffett's advice for the average person, the 99% of us who are not professional capital allocators, is breathtakingly simple and profound. He says, just buy the whole of America. He recommends a single, simple investment, a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. That's it. No complex trading strategies, no expensive hedge funds, no high-fee financial advisors promising to beat the market. When you buy a share of an S&P 500 index fund, you are not betting on one company. You are buying a tiny slice of the 500 biggest, most profitable, most powerful companies in the United States. You are owning Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Johnson & Johnson, Berkshire Hathaway itself, and hundreds more all at once. You are betting on the long-term resilience, innovation, and growth of the entire American economy. Historically, over any 20-year period you can choose, despite world wars, pandemics, massive recessions, political crises, and stagflation, that bet has always paid off. The market has always recovered and gone on to new highs. Furthermore, as a late starter over 50, the tax code gives you a massive break that you must utilize. You are allowed to make catch-up contributions to your retirement accounts. These are higher limits than younger workers have. For 2025, using projected numbers, always check current limits. If you are under 50, you can put $23,500 into a 401k. But if you are 50 or older, you can put in an additional $7,500 catch-up contribution for a total of $31,000 a year. For an IRA, the limit goes from $7,000 to $8,000 for those over 50. You must view these limits not as suggestions, but as targets. That is precious tax-advantaged space where your money grows without being taxed annually. You cannot waste it. Your strategy for the next 15 to 20 years is aggressively boring. It is repetitive. It is automated. Every single payday, a massive chunk of money leaves your checking account before you even see it and goes directly into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund inside these tax-advantaged accounts. You set it up once, and then you focus your energy on your job, your health, and increasing your income. You let the powerful engine of American capitalism do the heavy lifting for you. This brings up a crucial point for the late starter: the career endgame. You cannot just cut expenses. There is a floor to how much you can cut. You still need to eat and have shelter. There is no ceiling on how much you can earn. Your last 10 to 15 years of work are usually your highest earning years. You must maximize this. This is not the time to coast. This is the time to be aggressive in your career. Are you being paid market rate for your skills? If you have been at the same company for 10 years, you probably aren't. It might be time to aggressively negotiate a raise, or more effectively, change jobs to get a significant salary bump. Can you add a second stream of income? I'm not talking about a complex business. Can you consult in your field? Can you turn a hobby into cash? If you can generate an extra $1,000 a month and throw that entirely into your catch-up savings, it radically changes the math of your retirement. Every extra dollar you earn now buys you freedom later. Finally, we must address the psychological battle that lies ahead, because I guarantee you, over the next 20 years, something terrifying will happen. The stock market will crash. It is not a possibility. It is a certainty. We will have another recession. We might have another financial crisis or a depression. The news will scream 24 hours a day that the world is ending, that this time is different, that capitalism has failed. You will log into your retirement account one morning and see that the $100,000 you painfully scraped together over 5 years of sacrifice is suddenly worth $60,000. If you are 58 years old when that happens, the emotional urge to panic, sell everything to stop the bleeding, and move to cash will be almost irresistible. It will feel like the safest thing to do. This is the moment of truth. This is the moment where your retirement is either saved or destroyed forever. Buffett says, "The most important quality for an investor is temperament, not intellect." You don't need a high IQ to get rich. You need control over your emotions. When the market crashes, Buffett doesn't panic. He gets excited. He goes shopping. He sees high-quality merchandise, great American companies, on sale for half price. He understands that the market is manic-depressive. In the short term, it is a voting machine driven by fear and greed. In the long term, it is a weighing machine driven by actual corporate profits. As a late starter, you must develop this iron temperament. You must engrave it into your soul. When the market tanks, you do not sell. You keep buying. You keep pouring your monthly contribution into the S&P 500, buying more shares when they are cheap. You are accumulating ownership in the recovery. You have to ignore the noise. You have to ignore your panicked neighbor who says he got out at the top. You have to ignore the doom and gloom pundits on TV selling gold and survival kits. You are playing a different game. You are playing a 20-year game of survival for your future self. The path for the late starter is narrow. It is steep. It requires a level of focus, sacrifice, and discipline that most people never achieve in their entire lives. It requires accepting hard truths about the time you have wasted. But here is the good news. It is possible. People do it all the time. They wake up at 50, realize the danger, pivot hard, change their lives, and build a secure future before they retire. Warren Buffett didn't become the greatest investor in history because he had secret information or a magic formula. He became the best because he figured out the simple truths early and had the discipline to adhere to them for 8 decades without wavering, through every boom and every bust. You don't have 8 decades, you have 2. But if you apply those same principles with the same intensity for the time you have left, you can change the ending of your story. The clock is ticking loudly, the runway is short, but the plane can still take off if you start building maximum speed today. Let's get to work.